A lot of people wonder what is the best diet for health and fitness, for maintaining a lower body fat level, and so on and so forth. There's a plethora of diets to choose from. They're always coming out with new diets. They say that there's always a diet book in the top 10 bestseller lists of books. That doesn't hold too true anymore because people really don't read much books anymore, from what I understand, which is very sad, but that's another story. But anyway, the point is diets, as I said, they come and go. There's all kinds of them. There's a couple of basic diets. There's the high-carb, low-fat diet. That's the one usually recommended by people who are into, let's say, more plant-based diets, such as vegetarian-type style diets. These diets emphasize carbohydrates, very little fat, and of course they're based on mostly plant foods, which are naturally low in fat and higher in carbohydrate. They're not too bad because the carbohydrate in those diets are unrefined, natural, fiber-based carbohydrates found naturally in various plant foods. It's not for everyone, though. I mean, one problem with that type of diet, which I experienced myself when I tried it, was extreme hunger. It was, even though they say you can eat a lot of food, you load up on the fiber from the plants, supposedly it fills you up. I was voraciously hungry. I couldn't last on that diet. And the key to success of any diet is compliance. In other words, if you're not going to stay on the diet, if you get too hungry, if you go off the diet too often, the diet's a failure. It's already a failure. You have to take a diet that you could stick with. Another type of popular diet are the ketogenic and low carbohydrate diets. Ketogenic diets are marked by a total daily intake of carbohydrate of 25 grams or less, and basically carbohydrate free. Low carbohydrate diet starts at about 60 grams of carbs, can go all the way up to as much as 150 grams, but that's it. If any more than 150 grams of carbohydrate is not a low carbohydrate diet, even though a lot of medical journals, they talk about low carbohydrate diets, and then you look and see how many carbs the study subjects are consuming. Sometimes it's 250, 300 grams of carbs, and they call that a low carbohydrate diet, which is laughable. It's not a low carbohydrate diet. But anyway, the ketogenic diet, as I said, the low carb, these are all fat loss diets, but there's also eating styles. There's various styles of eating that are related to, the diet composition. But of all the type of so-called, if you want to call them eating styles, probably the one, with, according to research, that is the best all-round, year-long diet that a person can consume if they're interested in health and longevity. It's called the Mediterranean diet. Now, the reason it's called the Mediterranean diet is because supposedly countries, let's say adjacent or close to the Mediterranean Sea in Europe, such as Greece, Italy, Spain, these native people there supposedly eat a diet that emphasizes the collection of foods that are known as the Mediterranean diet. The truth of the matter is there is no real one Mediterranean diet. It's kind of a general term, but what the Mediterranean what's emphasized in the Mediterranean diet is fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, and healthy fats. A key point about the Mediterranean diet, and one of the reasons why it's so healthy, is it completely eliminates all processed and refined foods and refined carbohydrates. Those are the biggest killers. And certain types of fat, like trans fat, which is a type of, I'm not going to get into, I've talked about in past videos about trans fat. It's the worst type of fat you can eat. It causes, it's associated with heart disease, cardiovascular disease, cancer. It even can cause a loss of muscle because it blocks amino acid metabolism. Again, that's another story. But the Mediterranean diet, a lot of authorities recommend this as the best diet. The U.S. News, a publication called the U.S. News and World Report, each year they offer a list of what they call the best diets, and the Mediterranean diet has been number one on the U.S. News and World Report for 6 straight years. Now, I would not go by the U.S. News and World Report best diet list. I don't think it's really that accurate. I mean, even though it does list the Mediterranean diet as the number one diet, which I would agree with, they kind of overly criticize other diets, such as low carbohydrate diets, ketogenic diets. They say those diets are very dangerous. In fact, they're not dangerous at all. And the ketogenic diet and low carbohydrate diet, they are actually very good for certain classes of people. If you have insulin resistance or pre-diabetes marked by high resting glucose levels, if you're already diabetic, like a low carbohydrate diet is the best diet you can go on by far. So the U.S. News Report, I would throw it out. I mean, even though they list, as they say, the Mediterranean diet as the number one diet, I would not call them an accurate assessment. What are the features of the Mediterranean diet? Well, like I say, it's largely a plant-based diet. They do allow small amounts of protein foods, such as meat, fish, that type of thing, but you don't eat massive amounts. The diet basically focuses on mainly plant foods. But the thing that's good about the Mediterranean diet that differs from, let's say, vegan diets or vegan diets is the fact that the Mediterranean diet does allow a certain amount of animal-based protein. Now that's good because animal-based protein, you can't get away from the fact that's the highest quality protein you can eat is animal-based. There's no plant protein, contrary to what you might hear, that can equal on a serving by serving basis. There's no plant-based protein that can equal the protein quality of animal protein. So when you throw in a little animal protein with the plant protein, basically the Mediterranean diet, you could say it's a combination vegan, omnivore diet. Best way to eat by far for health. One of the things that the Mediterranean diet has been shown to do is it helps you sleep better. I'm not sure why, probably because of certain effects of the nutrients. You get a lot of what they call phytonutrients. Phyto means plant, and a lot of nutrients, these substances that have been shown to really be useful in helping to prevent disease and possibly extend longevity, they're only found in plants. They're not found in animal foods. Some of these things favorably affect sleep. There's tryptophan, which is in some protein foods. That also is in the Mediterranean diet. That will help you sleep. The lack of processed and refined carbohydrates will also possibly stimulate serotonin release in the brain, which helps you sleep. And that's why some foods that are incorporated in Mediterranean diets, such as walnuts, flax seeds, salmon, fish. These are all rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which is a very healthy type of fat, and especially salmon. The other ones are walnuts and flax seeds contain precursor to omega-3 called alpha-linoleic acid. But salmon is a fatty fish that contains the preformed EPA and DHE, which are biologically active. Studies have shown that the omega-3 fatty acids interact with serotonin receptors in the brain. Serotonin is a brain neurotransmitter that's involved in sleep onset. It's also involved in the production of melatonin, which most people know is also involved in sleep onset. A great feature of the Mediterranean style of eating, and I'm going to call it a style of eating. It's not really a diet, because diet implies something that you're going to go on and go off. The Mediterranean diet is not meant as a temporary fix. It's meant as a year-round eating style. In other words, you stay on it all the time. And I want to add at this point, you might wonder, is the Mediterranean diet suitable for competitive bodybuilding? I've written about an article about that precise topic in my Applied Metabolics. But to give you the short version, the Mediterranean diet can be adjusted for maximum fat loss. You could still get the benefits of the Mediterranean diet, the health benefits, but you could also get greater fat loss simply by adjusting your carbohydrate intake. In other words, all you do is eat the same basic foods on the Mediterranean diet, and you adjust the carbohydrates down a little bit. You don't have to go to zero, but you adjust the carbohydrates down. And another good thing about the Mediterranean diet is you don't need to take as many supplements, because it has the Mediterranean diet features a large variety of foods, and that's the key to getting all your nutrients. A lot of these quack health authorities always tell people to eat a balanced diet. from the various food groups. But a lot of people are not going to eat dairy foods because they don't want to drink milk. They don't want to eat cheese. A lot of people won't eat fruits and vegetables. And if you cut out those parts of the so-called balanced diet, you're not on a balanced diet. You're missing nutrients. You're going to have to take supplements. The Mediterranean diet is so complete and has such a large variety of foods that minimal supplements are necessary. You don't need a lot of supplements. I still think you should take certain supplements that are very difficult to get in food. Maybe a little extra vitamin E would be useful, although the Mediterranean diet does allow, it emphasizes extra virgin olive oil, which has a little bit of natural vitamin E, but really not enough for health. So taking a little extra vitamin E, and of course vitamin D. You can't really get vitamin D from foods, no matter what they say. There's no way you can ingest enough vitamin D from natural foods to reach optimal blood levels of what they call the hormonal form of vitamin D, or the activated form of vitamin D. You'd have to take a vitamin D supplement. But for other supplements, most of them just aren't necessary on a Mediterranean diet. And one of the great features of the Mediterranean diet is that the Mediterranean diet has anti-inflammatory effects, I should say. As people get older, there's the level of inflammation increases. The more body fat you have, the worse it gets. This inflammation is a systemic inflammation. It's not good. When you let's say have a wound, exerts a positive role because it basically causes white blood cells and immune cells to head towards the wound and aid healing and prevent infection. But when you have a systemic type of inflammation, that does a lot of bad things. It promotes cardiovascular disease, diabetes, brain degeneration, and catabolic loss of muscle. So you want to reduce systemic inflammation. And as I said, when people get older, systemic inflammation increases. And again, because fat cells release over 100 different types of chemicals, collectively known as adipokines, about 9 out of 10 of them are inflammatory. So people with a lot of body fat are having a lot of systemic inflammation. In fact, that's the worst thing about having body fat. Forget, even if you overlook the aesthetic look, having a lot of fat on your body, the worst thing is the health aspect of this systemic inflammation that usually accompanies having higher amounts of body fat. And you have what they call inflammatory cytokines. This is the basis of systemic inflammation with age. And as people get older, as I said, the inflammation goes up. It's called inflammaging. And I'm going to be writing about that in an upcoming issue of Applied Metabolics, because among other effects, inflammaging causes a huge loss of muscle and is closely associated with sarcopenia, which is the age-related loss of muscle. Some of the foods that are emphasized in Mediterranean diets, such as the plant-based foods, whole grains, and healthy fats, reduce inflammation. And for that reason, the Mediterranean diet could be considered an anti-inflammatory diet. And also these plant foods, they contain soluble fiber, which feeds the intestinal microbiome. And by having a healthy balance of organisms in the microbiome, you also greatly lower systemic inflammation. Because, I've talked about that in Applied Metabolics, so I'm not going to go into it here. Now, as far as increasing lifespan, some scientists will tell you that the only known type of eating style to increase lifespan is caloric restriction. And it's been shown in various animal species, if you reduce the daily calorie intake by about 30 to 40%, the animals live up to 30 to 40% longer. Now, there's no evidence at all, zero evidence, that this effect occurs in humans. When they've tried the calorie-restricted diet in monkeys, it didn't seem to work as well as expected. I have strong doubts about the caloric restriction diet. I believe that the only reason that it will possibly extend life is because you're eating so few calories that you wind up losing a lot of body fat. And along with the body fat, you get lower systemic inflammation, lower resting insulin level, lower blood glucose levels, and all of this, and lower blood lipids or fats like cholesterol. all of this portends to a longer lifespan. So it's actually the not so much the calorie restriction, it's the way it affects body composition. And the point here is that you can get the same effects by doing other things. For example, using intermittent fasting on a fairly regular basis will give you about 90% of the health benefits of caloric restriction without the starvation effect and without the excessive loss of muscle. And also the Mediterranean diet will also give you almost all the effects of the caloric restriction with not even a close relationship to hunger compared to the caloric restriction plan. There was a 36-year study of more than 75,000 women and more than 44,000 men that was published last January, and it listed the Mediterranean diet as one of the 4 diets consistently associated with a reduced risk of all-cause or cause-specific death, including cardiovascular disease, cancer, and respiratory disease. Now, even if the Mediterranean diet does not increase lifespan, meaning how many years you live, and I want to say that I do a lot of research on anti-aging. I write about it in my Applied Metabolics. As a person who's a little older myself, it's a big. I'm more concerned about the effects of aging. Let me put it this way: than I am about developing big muscles. At my age, I'm not gonna develop big muscles. So let's say my primary focus has changed from getting big to try and stay as healthy as possible. And my research shows that what your lifespan is largely dictated. I mean, if you really look at people that live to 100 or more, they are basically genetic mutants. They have much greater DNA repair mechanisms that most people don't have. Less than 1% of humans have this, and if you have it, you can usually live to over 100. And there also tend to be very short people. People who live to over 100 are, some of the women are like 4'8", and the men are like 5'1". I mean, you very rarely see a very tall person live to 100 or over. A lot of it has to do with insulin-like growth factor 1, which is involved in height. Unfortunately, insulin-like growth factor 1 in larger amounts, it limits lifespan. In other words, it curtails how long you can live. So you really can't control lifespan as much as people will lead you to believe. Yes, if you eat bad and you don't exercise and you smoke and you drink excessively, sure, you're going to cut your lifespan. You're basically killing yourself. But even if you eat right and do everything perfectly, unless you have those genetic mutant genes that the people who lived over 100 have, the odds of you living to 100 are almost zero, no matter how. But what you can do is increase health span. What is health span? Health span is staying healthy until the day you die, avoiding all the major degenerative diseases, cancer, cardiovascular disease, severe joint pain, brain degeneration. That is under your control. That you can do. You can increase health span. That should be the goal of most people. Because if you increase health span, you'll maximize whatever lifespan you have. They go together. And it turns out that the Mediterranean diet, this is an important point, is the number one diet, better than caloric restriction or any of those others, for increasing health span. So it's the best diet if you want to stay healthy for as long as possible. It lowers the risk of heart disease because of the reduction. The diet decreases low-density lipoprotein, which is associated with increased atherosclerosis. A study in March 2023 that followed 60,000 participants for an average of 9 years looked at any link between the Mediterranean diet and dementia. They found that people who follow a Mediterranean style of eating have much lower rates of dementia because a large variety of unprocessed healthy foods, which kind of keep the brain healthy and prevent changes in the brain, such as oxidative stress and insulin resistance, that are associated with dementia. Also, men should be cognizant, should know that the Mediterranean diet is very good for helping to prevent prostate cancer. A 2022 study examined 160 plasma samples of men with late onset prostate cancer and 132 matched controls. They analyzed them for micronutrient content. And the individuals in the prostate cancer were found to have significantly lower levels of certain protective nutrients that are found in plant foods such as lycopene, lutein, alpha carotene, and beta carotene. So all of those are in the Mediterranean diet. So you will men should know that the Mediterranean diet is great for preventing prostate cancer, and prostate cancer has a large genetic component. If you're a man and you had your father, your grandfather, uncles, any of them had prostate cancer, the odds are good that you have inherited genes that could turn on prostate cancer. This doesn't mean that you're doomed to get prostate cancer. You can do proactive things to prevent prostate cancer, and among these would be following a Mediterranean-style diet. If you do that, you won't turn on the genes that you inherited that cause prostate cancer. And, I'm not going to say you'll never get it, because the truth is every man, if he lives long enough, gets changes in his prostate that are considered precancerous. It's called it's called neoplasia. But basically there's little changes that are precancerous in every man. If you live, let's say 80 or above, you will have these little changes in the prostate cells. But most men do not die of prostate cancer. They die of cardiovascular disease and other types of cancer. The Mediterranean diet has been shown to lower the risk of eye diseases that are associated with aging, such as age-related macular degeneration, which is a leading cause of blindness in older people. Again, this relates to the nutrient content of the Mediterranean diet, such as lutein, which is very protective of eye health, zeaxanthin, which is also a nutrient known to protect eyes, vitamin A, vitamin B6, vitamin C, and omega-3 fatty acids. All of these have shown protective effects against eye disease or loss of vision as you age. The Mediterranean diet is shown to have good effects on helping to prevent depression. A 12-week 2022 study of 72 men aged 18-25 with moderate to severe depression compared the Mediterranean diet to something called befriending therapy. I'm not sure what that is, but the Mediterranean diet proved to be superior. Again, it's the food content that caused that, the fruits and vegetables, the vitamins, minerals, fiber, omega-3 fatty acids, and so on and so forth. So let me see. I think that really covers it. Let me see where I am here on time. 22 minutes. I'm going to stop here. And this, I want to add that this was just an overview of the Mediterranean diet, because I consider it by far, based on all the research I've read and based on what I see, I consider the Mediterranean diet the number one best overall style of eating. Most physicians, most health experts agree with me. It's the best type of diet to follow year-round. Like I say, it can be adjusted if you have different goals. If you want to lose fat, you can just adjust the carbohydrate intake and eat the same basic foods. Just eat smaller portions, and it will be a fat loss and health diet at the same time. Actually, a lot healthier than the ketogenic diet, which unfortunately eliminates a lot of healthy foods like plant foods, which have benefits. So the Mediterranean, the best diet. This video was basically an overview. There's a lot more to the Mediterranean diet, including how it affects the body, and I will be discussing that in an upcoming issue of my Applied Metabolics. Much more detail, including specifics on how to implement various types of the Mediterranean diet. Because as I say, the Mediterranean diet is just a general term. There's different types of Mediterranean diet. I will tell you how to implement that, how to do it exactly, so you can choose the one that works best for you. Besides that, in Applied Metabolics, I cover nutrition, exercise science, anti-aging research, supplement science, which supplements work, which ones don't. I'm not associated with any supplement company, so you'll get the truth there. Ergogenic aids, what else? Women's health and fitness, hormonal therapy. All of this is covered in Applied Metabolics. There's no other digital publication that covers as a larger variety of topics as my Applied Metabolics. It's 30 to 45 pages every month. Comes out on the first of every month. And if you really want to learn, if you really want to know the truth, subscribe today. It's www.appliedmetabolics.com. And when you subscribe, send me an email. I'll send you an invitation to join my private Applied Metabolics Facebook page, where each day I post new information on nutrition, exercise, and general health and medicine. There's an email portal on my Applied Metabolics website where current subscribers only, I don't accept unsolicited questions, current subscribers only can send me short questions about anything they might have read in Applied Metabolics or anything else related to health and nutrition and exercise that they want answers to, as long as they're short questions. And that I do that as a service to my subscribers, an appreciation of the fact that they subscribed and are supporting my work. So unfortunately, unsolicited questions I will not be able to answer. But you're welcome to leave comments under these videos about anything you want to say, basically. Hopefully it'll be nice comments, not troll moron comments, which I'll just ignore anyway. But also I'm open to suggestions for future videos. If you have any ideas that you think would interest a large number of people, I'll try and do a video on it. And the one thing you could be assured of with my videos is you're going to get the truth. You notice I don't push any supplement companies. I don't push any other products. You won't see under the comment section, you won't see something 20% discount if you mention this code, which means that you're a shill. And that would make me a shill for supplement companies that are paying me to say that. And to me, that's a complete loss of credibility of any videos that do that. Of course, you have a lot of the videos where the people are outright selling their own supplements. Again, there's a credibility problem there. So you won't see that in my videos. I don't have any bells and whistles. I don't have any fancy graphics. But what I do have is the total, complete, 100% truth of everything I say. So I suggest, besides subscribing to Applied Metabolics, it'd probably be a good idea to subscribe to my channel. And when you do, I think YouTube sends an email telling you when a new video is posted. But just for your own information, a new video is posted every Tuesday of every week. So thank you for listening. If you want to have the best friend you'll ever have, go to your local shelter, adopt a dog. They are the best, and they have also contributed to health because walking the dog is very good for you. Take care.